There's a silent war happening inside almost every human being alive today. A war no one sees. No headlines report it. No cameras capture it. Yet it determines the fate of nations, the rise of leaders, the destruction of dreams, and the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one. It is the war between what feels good now and what matters most later. Every day, people trade their future for temporary comfort. They trade discipline for distraction, purpose for pleasure, vision for convenience. They sacrifice the permanent on the altar of the immediate. And slowly, without realizing it, they wake up one day trapped inside a life they never intended to build. Because success is rarely destroyed by one catastrophic decision. It is usually destroyed by 1,000 tiny compromises. A delayed alarm clock, a postponed responsibility, an ignored habit, a conversation avoided, a promise broken to yourself, a comfort chosen over growth. And at first, these decisions seem harmless, almost invisible, like tiny cracks in a foundation. But over time, those cracks become fractures. Those fractures become collapse. And the most painful part is that collapse rarely feels sudden. It feels gradual, quiet, slow enough for people to normalize it. This is why so many people stay stuck. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack intelligence, but because they never learned the sacred art of delayed gratification. They never learned how to say no to something small in order to say yes to something great. And yet every meaningful achievement in human history has demanded this sacrifice. When Abraham Lincoln failed repeatedly before becoming one of history's most respected leaders, he was practicing delayed gratification. He endured humiliation in the present for a purpose greater than temporary comfort. When Thomas Edison spent years experimenting through failure after failure while others mocked him, he was practicing delayed gratification. He chose long-term contribution over short-term validation. When Walt Disney was rejected, financially broken, and told he lacked imagination, he continued building a vision nobody else could yet see. That is delayed gratification. And when Henry Ford kept pursuing the impossible dream of mass automobile production, despite ridicule from experts, he was sacrificing immediate approval for future transformation. This principle is ancient, timeless, universal. The farmer understands it. The architect understands it. The sculptor understands it. Nature itself understands it. A seed disappears underground before it rises toward the sun. The oak tree grows slowly because strength takes time. Diamonds are created under pressure, not comfort. Everything valuable in existence requires a season where results are invisible. But modern culture has trained people to worship immediacy. Faster food, faster money, faster fame, faster pleasure, faster success. Everyone wants the harvest without the planting season. Everyone wants confidence without discipline, wealth without patience, respect without character, influence without integrity. And this obsession with instant gratification is quietly destroying human potential, because the human spirit was not designed to become powerful through shortcuts. It becomes powerful through alignment. Alignment between values and actions. Alignment between vision and behavior. Alignment between promises and discipline. This is what Stephen Covey understood so deeply. He understood that lasting success is never built from the outside in. It is built from the inside out. The world teaches people to focus on image. Covey taught people to focus on character. The world says, appear successful. Principles say, become trustworthy. The world says, win attention. Principles say, earn respect. The world says, take shortcuts. Principles say, build foundations. And foundations are never glamorous. Nobody applauds the concrete beneath a skyscraper. Nobody celebrates the unseen roots beneath a giant tree. Yet without them, everything collapses. This is why the most important victories in life happen internally before they ever become external. Before a person masters wealth, they must master impulse. Before they lead others, they must lead themselves. Before they gain influence, they must develop integrity. Before they create results, They must create habits. And habits are formed in moments nobody sees. Late nights when exhaustion whispers, quit. Early mornings when comfort begs you to stay in bed. Moments when nobody would notice if you cut corners. Moments when excuses feel justified. Moments when immediate pleasure tempts you away from your future. That is where destiny is decided. Not in giant dramatic moments, but in quiet daily decisions. Because every decision is casting a vote for the person you are becoming. Every distraction weakens or strengthens your future. Every disciplined action shapes identity. Every repeated behavior becomes character. And character, over time, becomes destiny. This is why temporary sacrifice is not punishment. It is transformation. The athlete sacrifices comfort to build endurance. The entrepreneur sacrifices entertainment to build vision. The parent sacrifices sleep to build a family. The artist sacrifices certainty to build beauty. The leader sacrifices ego to build trust. Nothing meaningful is built without sacrifice. And yet sacrifice becomes easier when you realize something profound. You are already sacrificing something no matter what you choose. When people avoid discipline, they sacrifice potential. When they avoid hard conversations, they sacrifice relationships. When they avoid responsibility, they sacrifice freedom. When they choose comfort repeatedly, they sacrifice greatness. There's no path without pain. The only question is whether your pain will create growth or regret. And regret is one of the heaviest emotional burdens a human being can carry. Because regret whispers terrifying words into the soul. You could have become more. Not because life denied you the opportunity, but because comfort became your master. There are cemeteries filled with unrealized potential. Books never written. Businesses never built. Dreams never pursued. Wisdom never shared. Not because people lack capability, but because they kept waiting for perfect conditions. But life does not reward hesitation forever. Time keeps moving. The clock does not care about excuses. The seasons do not pause for fear. Opportunity rarely announces its final visit. And one day, people wake up shocked by how quickly life disappeared. This is why delayed gratification is ultimately about honoring your future self. It is an act of self-respect. When you study instead of scrolling endlessly, you are respecting your future. When you save money instead of wasting it impulsively, you are respecting your future. When you control your emotions instead of reacting recklessly, you are respecting your future. When you tell the truth despite consequences, you are respecting your future. When you remain disciplined despite temporary discomfort, you are building trust with yourself. And self-trust changes everything. Because once a person trusts themselves, they stop depending on motivation. They no longer need emotional excitement to act. They no longer wait for inspiration. They no longer become prisoners of mood. They become principle-centered. And principle-centered people are dangerous in the best possible way, because they remain steady while the world becomes chaotic. When trends change, they remain grounded. When distractions multiply, they remain focused. When criticism appears, they remain calm. When storms arrive, they remain rooted. Why? Because their identity is no longer built upon emotion. It is built upon principles. This is the difference between a lighthouse and a leaf in the wind. Most people drift emotionally through life. Their direction changes depending on circumstances, trends, opinions, and moods. But principle-centered individuals become like lighthouses, stable, anchored, immovable. And this stability creates power. Not loud power, not arrogant power, quiet power. The kind of power that makes people trust you. The kind of power that creates lasting influence. The kind of power that survives hardship. Because real strength is not emotional intensity. Real strength is emotional mastery. Anyone can act disciplined when they feel motivated. Anyone can stay positive when life feels easy. Anyone can remain calm when nothing threatens them. But true maturity is revealed when pressure arrives, when disappointment hits, when betrayal wounds, when exhaustion overwhelms, when results are delayed, when loneliness appears, when effort feels invisible. That is when character speaks. And character always reveals what habits have been quietly built beneath the surface. This is why Covey emphasized private victory before public victory. Because the greatest battles happen internally. The battle against ego. The battle against laziness. The battle against distraction. The battle against resentment. The battle against fear. The battle against immediate gratification. And the people who win these invisible battles eventually transform entire worlds. Look closely at history, and you will notice something extraordinary. The people who shaped civilization were often willing to endure temporary discomfort for permanent contribution. Scientists spent decades researching discoveries they might never personally benefit from. Inventors sacrificed stability for innovation. Freedom fighters sacrificed safety for justice. Visionaries sacrificed popularity for truth. Greatness has always demanded patience, and patience is not passive. Patience is disciplined faith in motion. It is continuing the work while results remain invisible. It is trusting the process before the evidence appears. It is understanding that meaningful things grow slowly. A tree does not become mighty overnight. A cathedral is not built in a day. A meaningful relationship is not formed instantly. A powerful character is not developed through comfort. The deepest things in life require time. And perhaps this is why modern people struggle emotionally. They are constantly exposed to illusions of overnight success. They see the spotlight, but not the years of darkness before it. They see the applause, but not the sacrifice behind it. They see achievement, but not the loneliness, discipline, failure, and repetition required to reach it. Success without foundation eventually becomes destruction. This is why character matters more than image. A beautiful exterior cannot compensate for internal weakness forever. Eventually, pressure exposes everything. Pressure reveals whether discipline exists. Pressure reveals whether integrity exists. Pressure reveals whether values are real or performative. And this is why some people rise during adversity while others collapse. Adversity does not create character. It reveals it. The storm simply exposes what was already built beneath the surface. A weak foundation fears pressure. A strong foundation becomes stronger because of it. And every disciplined choice you make today is strengthening your foundation for tomorrow's storms. Every moment you resist distraction is building focus. Every moment you control anger is building emotional maturity. Every moment you remain honest despite consequences is building integrity. Every moment you choose consistency over comfort is building resilience. This is not merely productivity. This is identity construction. You are becoming someone through repetition. And the terrifying truth is that people rarely rise above the systems they repeatedly tolerate. A person who tolerates constant distraction becomes fragmented. A person who tolerates dishonesty becomes internally divided. A person who tolerates laziness weakens self-respect. A person who tolerates negativity poisons perspective. But a person who consistently honors principles becomes powerful beyond measure. Because principles create alignment, and alignment creates peace. Not superficial happiness, not temporary pleasure, deep peace. The kind of peace that exists when your private life matches your public image, when your actions match your values, when your habits support your purpose, when your conscience is clear. That kind of peace cannot be purchased. It must be earned. And the price is discipline. The price is delayed gratification. The price is temporary sacrifice. But the reward is extraordinary, because eventually, disciplined people experience something that undisciplined people rarely understand. Freedom. True freedom is not doing whatever you feel like doing. True freedom is becoming strong enough to do what matters most regardless of how you feel. A person addicted to comfort is not free. A person controlled by impulse is not free. A person enslaved by distraction is not free. A person ruled by emotions is not free. Freedom requires mastery, and mastery requires sacrifice. This is why the most fulfilled people are often the most disciplined people. Not because discipline is enjoyable in every moment, but because discipline creates a life that becomes enjoyable over time. The disciplined student gains opportunities. The disciplined saver gains security. The disciplined communicator gains trust. The disciplined thinker gains clarity. The disciplined leader gains influence. Meanwhile, impulsive decisions compound into chaos. This is the hidden law of life. Small choices repeated consistently create massive consequences over time. A ship changes direction by only a few degrees, yet eventually reaches an entirely different continent. Likewise, tiny daily habits determine life trajectories. And this is empowering because it means transformation does not require perfection overnight. It requires alignment daily. A single disciplined hour matters. A single courageous conversation matters. A single truthful decision matters. A single act of restraint matters. Because repeated consistently, small actions become destiny. And one day, after years of invisible effort, people suddenly call you successful. But they never saw the mornings you wanted to quit, the temptations you resisted, the loneliness you endured, the sacrifices nobody applauded. They see the harvest, but not the planting season. Yet you will know the truth, that permanent success was born from temporary sacrifice, that greatness was built quietly, that discipline became identity, that integrity became strength, that delayed gratification became freedom. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all is this: the journey itself transforms you, because by the time disciplined people finally reach their goals, they have become someone entirely different than when they began. Stronger, wiser, calmer, more grounded, more patient, more trustworthy, more capable of carrying responsibility. The reward was never only the achievement. The reward was the transformation required to achieve it. And that transformation is priceless. So when the world rushes toward instant pleasure, choose depth. When society worships convenience, choose principles. When others chase applause, choose character. When distractions multiply, choose focus. When comfort whispers for surrender, choose purpose. Because your future is listening to every decision you make today. The person you will become tomorrow is watching what you tolerate right now. And years from now, you will either thank yourself for your discipline or mourn the possibilities you abandoned for temporary comfort. Do not underestimate the power of small, consistent sacrifices. Empires are built that way. Legacies are built that way. Trust is built that way. Character is built that way. Extraordinary lives are built that way. One disciplined choice at a time. One courageous decision at a time. One act of integrity at a time. And if you continue honoring principles when nobody is watching, if you continue planting seeds despite delayed results, if you continue choosing growth over comfort, one day your life will become undeniable evidence that temporary sacrifice truly creates permanent success.